The 12 turns into a 0 while I'm looking at it. 1 second, the time clock says 52.0 hours. The next, it says 40.0, with a red triangle beside Christmas Eve. Above me, wet sheets slap through the overhead rail system. Steam beads on my eyelashes. My gloves smell like hot cotton and boiler treatment. A note appears under my time card. Holiday Goodwill isn't billable. Celeste Klein, Human Resources. Below her name is the approval field. Grant Calder, Plant Manager. Approved 11:43 p.m. My cousin approved the cut 4 minutes ago, before payroll. While I was still working the late shift, he asked me to cover. My phone vibrates. I expect Grant. Instead, it's an automated email from Hourmark, our clock vendor. Synchronization mismatch detected. Original device activity retained for audit. I read that line twice, then slipped the phone back into my pocket. Across the floor, someone shouts my name. The last hospital carts are waiting to be sealed, and if I stop now, Grant gets to say I abandoned the job. So I pick up my mother's brass tally counter and press it once. The little number rolls from 218 to 219. "Tell me that's the last one," Louise calls from the dock. "That depends," I say. "Are you emotionally prepared for me to lie?" At this hour, absolutely. He leans around a blue cart stacked with wrapped surgical linen. Luis Ortega has driven for Calder longer than I've worked here, and he distrusts any sentence containing the phrase operational improvement. His gray Calder jacket is zipped crooked, and a strip of reflective tape hangs from one sleeve like loose tinsel. Behind him, the dock door shudders in the wind. I check the cart seal against the route sheet. Mercy General Surgical Services, 219. Luis watches my face. Bad news? Payroll thing. That phrase has never meant anything good. Get this signed at receiving. Don't let anyone tear off the seal before they scan it. He looks past me toward the time clocks. Mara. Luis. You have your courtroom voice. I don't have a courtroom voice. You sound like you're asking a witness if he recognizes the murder weapon. I hand him the route sheet. Do you recognize this clipboard? He takes it, but the joke doesn't move his eyes. They touch your hours? The red triangle glows on the terminal 20 feet away. Go warm up the truck, I say. Mara. The roads are icing. It is enough of an answer. His mouth tightens. Luis has a wife who works nights at a rehabilitation hospital and a mortgage he complains about with the tenderness other people reserve for pets. He had agreed to stay late because I had promised every minute would be on the clock. I can still hear myself saying it. He folds the route sheet carefully and tucks it inside his jacket. I'm not clocking out until the truck moves. You shouldn't. That a new policy? That has always been the policy. He gives me a small nod and walks backward toward the loading bay. Good. I like policies when they're expensive. At 7 that evening, the plant had already smelled like scorched dust. The number 3 ironer was running. The small piece folder kept swallowing washcloth sideways, and Christmas music crackled from a speaker someone had placed on top of a cabinet marked respiratory protection. The song stopped every time the cabinet vibrated. We process hospital and hotel linen at Calder, which sounds simple if you have never watched 12,000 pounds of fabric travel through a building. Dirty linen enters through the east side in tied bags. Clean linen leaves through the west side, wrapped, counted, and sealed. Between those doors are washers the size of delivery vans, steam lines hot enough to blister skin through a glove, chemical feeds that can ruin a whole load if they drift by half an ounce, and 47 people who know which machine is about to fail by the sound it makes before any sensor notices. On Christmas Eve, we had 23 people. At 7:18, Grant had come down from the offices wearing a navy overcoat over his work shirt. The coat was too nice for the wash floor, and he kept one hand pressed over the front as if lint might leap onto him. We lost pressure again, I told him. He glanced up at the steam gauge. Maintenance said it was stable. Maintenance left at 5. Of course they did. Grant could be funny when he forgot he was in charge. That was part of what made him difficult to stay angry with and dangerous to trust. He had our grandfather's square hands and none of his patience. He could reroute 6 trucks in a snowstorm without writing down a thing, then spend 40 minutes choosing a font for a notice about refrigerator lunches. He followed me past the tunnel washer. How far behind? 3 hospital routes if pressure holds. 5 if it doesn't. Can Mercy wait until morning? No. Can St. Vincent? They can wait if you call their nursing supervisor and explain why they're short on isolation gowns. He rubbed his chin. I don't like when you answer a question with a threat. That wasn't a threat. I was delegating. That got half a smile. Then he looked toward the glass offices above the sorting floor. Celeste stood behind the conference room window with her arms folded. Even at that distance, her white blouse looked ironed by a person with unresolved anger. Grant's smile disappeared. What? I asked. Nothing. Grant, we need the holiday labor number under control. We need steam. I'm aware. Steam first, number second. That's easy for you to say. It wasn't, actually. Grant knew it wasn't. The plant's refinancing depended on 3 months of cleaner operating numbers, and he had spent every family dinner since September, explaining the debt as if repeating it made the bank less real. The new tunnel washer would use less water, fewer chemicals, and enough less natural gas to keep Calder competitive with the national companies circling our hospital accounts. It would also cost more than my house. Celeste had built the financing package. She had found insurance savings no one else had noticed, renegotiated our staffing contract, and forced supervisors to document injuries instead of handling them with ice packs and favors. Half the plant disliked her. The other half disliked her, but admitted their dental claims finally got paid. She was good at making systems behave. People were more complicated. Grant lowered his voice. Can you finish without holding the whole crew? I already sent home everyone I can spare. What about you? I looked at him. He exhaled. That came out wrong. It usually does when someone asks me to work for free. I didn't ask that. You asked what about me. I'm asking whether you can get the roots out. Yes. Then do it. Stay until the hospital carts are clean, whatever it takes. My brass counter was hooked through my belt loop. I pressed it once for an empty cart rolling past, then backed the number off with my thumbnail. Grant watched me. Your mother still carries one of those? This is hers. I thought she kept it in the kitchen junk drawer. She did, between dead batteries and enough takeout menus to feed a city. A softer look crossed his face. My mother had trained both of us, though Grant preferred to remember being born with operational knowledge. She used to walk the floor with the counter clicking in her palm and say numbers behaved better when they knew you were watching. Grant touched the counter with one finger. Aunt Bev would have had these roots out an hour ago. Aunt Bev would have hit you with this. Also true. Then Celeste tapped on the glass above us. Grant looked up. The warmth left his face so quickly it was almost embarrassing to witness. I'll handle her, he said. What does that mean? It means you handle the floor. By 9, we had recovered half the delay. I shifted the surgical sheets from washer 4 to washer 6, shortened an empty rinse that had been left in the formula after a chemical change, and paired 2 small loads that shared the same finishing requirements. Priya Nand, our quality supervisor, stood beside me reading the pressure gauge. It's dropping on every steam demand, she said. Trap stuck. The contractor checked it. The contractor checked the gauge. She tilted her head. Those are different nouns. That's what I said. Priya smiled and wrote the pressure readings on the stainless control board with a red grease pencil. She had the neatest handwriting in the building, which made her angry notes seem almost polite. 742. 104 pounds per square inch, 816, 97 pounds per square inch, 903, 91 pounds per square inch. We have to bypass that trap, I said. We aren't maintenance. We're not touching the line. We're closing the feed to ironer 2 and shifting demand. That'll slow hotel flat work. The hotel route can leave in the morning. Grant approved that? Grant said whatever it takes. Priya looked at me over her safety glasses. Did he put it in writing? My phone was already in my hand. Grant's message sat 3 lines above a photograph he'd sent of a cracked pallet. Stay until the hospital carts are clean, whatever it takes. I showed her. Romantic, she said. I inspire people. Save that. I save everything. That's because you don't trust anyone. I trust you. Terrible judgment. We shut the ironer feed. Pressure climbed 6 pounds in 4 minutes. At 9:27, the tunnel washer stopped alarming. At 9:41, Mercy's first cart cleared inspection. At 10:06, Luis brought me coffee from the vending machine and claimed it was punishment for something I had done in a former life. At 10:12, Grant approved my message summarizing the revised dispatch order with a thumbs up. At 10:18, Celeste emailed all supervisors about uncontrolled holiday labor exposure. The email said no overtime beyond 10 o'clock would be recognized without written executive authorization. I forwarded Grant's message to myself, then sent Celeste the names of everyone still working and the operational reason for each person. Her answer came 2 minutes later. Your staffing choices are noted. Not approved, not denied, noted. I called Grant's extension. Through the glass, I watched the phone on his desk light up. He was sitting across from Celeste in the conference room. A spreadsheet glowed on the wall monitor behind them. Grant looked at the phone. Celeste looked at Grant. The ringing stopped. Priya came up beside me holding 2 torn gowns in a clear rejection bag. He's up there? Yes. Busy? Apparently he's trapped in a glass box. Should we tap the wall with food? I almost laughed. That made it worse. At 10:36, Grant finally texted, "Keep moving. I'll sort payroll. I saved that too." Now at nearly midnight, the last route is moving and payroll has been sorted by removing me from it. I finish the dispatch seal, write the time beside my initials, and watch Luis's truck pull away from the dock. Its red lights smear across the wet pavement before the door comes down. The plant becomes quieter by degrees. Conveyor belts stop. The overhead rail clicks empty. Somewhere near the washers, a valve releases with a long, exhausted sigh. Priya is waiting beside the time clock. She has removed her hair covering and a deep line circles her forehead where the elastic sat. "You first," she says. "I need to check the dock sheet." You checked it. The chemical room. You checked it. Boiler pressure. I checked it because I knew you would pretend not to be afraid of the time clock. I'm not afraid of it. Then punch. Her card still shows 47.6 hours. I feel a flicker of relief so sharp it embarrasses me. I enter my employee number. My 40 hours appear with the red triangle and Celeste's note. Holiday goodwill isn't billable. Priya reads it over my shoulder. For a few seconds, she says nothing. Priya always gives anger somewhere to sit before she lets it speak. "Goodwill," she says finally. "Was that what we were washing?" "Apparently." "Does Mercy know they received goodwill instead of surgical sheets?" "Don't. I'm serious. Their purchasing department will want a refund." My phone vibrates again. The hour mark alert is still open beneath a second automated message. Administrator modification variance, 12.0 hours. Original device activity retained for audit. Priya sees the words. What does that mean? It means the clock and payroll disagree. Can Celeste change the clock record? She can change what payroll receives. That's not what I asked. No. Priya's eyes sharpen. So you have it. I have a vendor telling me there's a mismatch. I don't have the export. Request it. If I request it tonight, Celeste sees the audit inquiry in the administrator portal? So she just blamed the staffing decision on me. If she knows what hour mark retained, she gets time to build an explanation around it. Priya studies me. You've had this argument before. Not this one. But you've had it in your head. For months, if I'm honest. Every time a missed meal punch reappeared after I corrected it. Every time a supervisor told an employee the clock rounded differently on Fridays, as if software observed the Sabbath. Every time Grant said he would sort payroll, I slide the brass tally counter off my belt and set it on the terminal shelf. Go home, I tell Priya. You're staying? I'm going upstairs. Her gaze moves to the dark glass conference room. Grant and Celeste are gone. Celeste's office light is still on, but the door is open and the chair is empty. Mara, I'm not confronting anybody. You say confronting like you say arson. Very calm, very specific. I need the staffing sheet I sent at 10. You emailed it. I also wrote the card assignments on the supervisor copy. She understands. Digital records can be revised. Paper develops coffee rings, grease smears, and witnesses. We find the sheet beneath the shift clipboard. 9 names are written beside the late routes, each with a start time, assignment, and my initials. Grant's initials sit at the bottom, added when he walked the floor before dinner. Priya takes a picture with her phone. I take one with mine. Then I return to the time clock and choose Decline Certification. A text box opens. My hands hover over the keys. There are 100 things I want to write, beginning with Grant and ending somewhere near theft. I type one sentence. The displayed total does not reflect the hours worked. I submit it. For the first time all night, the terminal makes no sound. Priya puts on her coat. Now can we leave? The lights in Celeste's office come on. She steps into the doorway holding her laptop against her ribs. She must have been in the records room behind it, close enough to hear us without seeing us. Her eyes move from me to Priya, then to the paper staffing sheet in my hand. I thought the floor was clear, she says. It is, I answer. Celeste walks to the railing above us. You declined your time card. Yes. I was hoping you'd be reasonable. I was hoping to be paid. Her mouth bends slightly, not quite a smile. That's an unnecessarily dramatic way to describe an administrative correction. Then correcting it back should be easy. She looks at the brass counter on the shelf, the staffing sheet, Priya's phone still in her hand. I can almost see her recalculating. Your overtime wasn't authorized, Celeste says. Grant authorized it. Grant authorized completion of the routes. You decided how to staff them. And he approved the staffing sheet. She doesn't glance at the paper. That tells me she already knows what is on it. You should go home, Mara. I will. Leave the supervisor clipboard. It stays on the floor. Her gaze settles on me. Payroll closes at 8 tomorrow morning. If you reconsider the certification before then, we can avoid turning this into something larger than 12 hours. There it is, an offer shaped like a warning. I hook the brass counter back onto my belt. Good night, Celeste. Priya and I walk toward the employee exit. We are almost there when every time clock on the wall refreshes at once. Luis, 46.3 becomes 40.0. Priya, 47.6 becomes 40.0. One by one, the holiday hours disappear beside all 9 names from my staffing sheet. Celeste has found her explanation. She is making the missing time my decision. Priya stops with her hand on the exit bar. Oh, she says softly. She made it larger. Above us, Celeste closes her laptop. I walk back to the nearest clock. The screen shows Luis at 40 hours, then Janice from finishing, then Anton from soil sort. Each card carries the same code. Voluntary Operational Support. The code is new. I know because I helped build the list. Our mark came with 43 pay categories, most of them useless to a commercial laundry, and I spent 2 afternoons reducing them to regular overtime training, paid leave, callback, and bereavement. Voluntary operational support was never one of ours. Celeste, I call. She pauses at her office door. What policy defines voluntary operational support? I'm not conducting a policy review at midnight. You just applied it to 9 people. I corrected time that resulted from an unauthorized staffing decision. You corrected Priya's? I'm salaried, Priya says. Celeste looks down at her. Then your card is an attendance record, not a compensation issue. You still altered it. For consistency. Priya nods slowly. That word is doing a lot of work. Celeste's hand tightens around her laptop. Good night. I point to Luis's card. He stayed because I told him he would be paid. That was not your promise to make. It's not a promise. It's how hourly employment works. You're an operations lead, Mara, not payroll counsel, and you're not allowed to turn work into a favor by renaming it. She comes down the stairs then, each heel landing neatly in the center of a rubber tread made filthy by decades of work boots. She stops several feet from us. Up close, she looks tired. Not guilty. Tired. There is a crease beside her mouth and a tiny bleach spot on the cuff of her coat, probably collected during one of her rare trips through soil sort. The plant is carrying debt it cannot service at its current labor ratio, she says. The refinancing committee reviews our quarter at 9 tomorrow. If we miss the target, the tunnel washer is delayed, our water costs remain unsustainable, and 30 people may be unnecessary by spring. That is the context you keep refusing to see. I see it. Do you? Yes. It still doesn't make those hours disappear. Her eyes harden. Your inability to distinguish urgency from insubordination is going to cost you. The sentence lands with the clean weight of something she has been waiting to say. Priya shifts beside me, but I don't look away from Celeste. Send me the written policy for the new code, I say. I'll send you instructions for tomorrow. It already is tomorrow. That earns me the smallest flash of anger. Celeste turns back toward the stairs. Your access is suspended pending review. Do not log into Calder Systems or enter the production floor until you are told. By you, by management. Grant is management. He approved the review. There are betrayals that arrive loudly enough to let you defend yourself. Grants keep showing up as completed fields. I take the staffing sheet out of my hand and slide it into the clear front pocket of the supervisor clipboard. Priya watches exactly where I put it. Then we leave. Cold hits the inside of my nose in the parking lot. Priya's car is white with frost. Mine has a sheet of ice across the windshield and one clean rectangle where the Calder security light has warmed the glass. Priya unlocks her door, then looks at me over the roof. I took 6 pictures. I saw. The first one includes the wall clock. Good. The second includes Celeste in the background. Better. The third is mostly my thumb. Vital context. She doesn't smile. What are you going to do? Wait for hour mark. You hate waiting. I'm very good at hating it. I mean it. So do I. She scrapes ice from her windshield with an old Calder badge. I can call Grant. No, he listens to me. He listens until Celeste gives him a number. Then I'll give him a different number. Go home, Priya. You keep saying that like your house is any closer than mine. She points the badge at me. Don't meet with them alone. I won't. You say that very convincingly. It's a gift. I watch her drive away before I start scraping my own windshield. The brass counter knocks against the car door when I lean over. I unhook it and put it in the cup holder. 219 stares up at me in little black numerals. At home, I set the counter beside the kitchen sink and leave my boots on the rubber mat. The house is too quiet after the plant. My ears keep inventing conveyor noise. There are 3 messages from my mother. The first asks whether I remembered to eat. The second says she has wrapped my plate and will not accept professional martyrdom as an excuse. The third is 7 seconds of silence followed by, Grant just called me. Call me before I call him back and make this worse. I heat the plate she left in my refrigerator earlier. Ham, potatoes, green beans cooked far past the point of resistance. My mother believes vegetables should not fight the fork. She answers on the first ring. What did he do? Merry Christmas to you too. What did he do, Mara? He approved a payroll edit. How much? 12 hours from me, 7 or 8 from most of the others. She is quiet. Mom. I'm thinking. That sounded like swearing with no words. It was. I sit at the kitchen table, the ham is hot at the edges and cold in the middle. What did Grant tell you? That you had a disagreement with Celeste about holiday scheduling. He called you after midnight to say that? He called because he knows you won't call me when you're hurt. I'm not hurt. Then that's useful. We've established he's wrong twice. I push a potato through a puddle of gravy. He said the refinancing committee meets in the morning. It does. You knew? I own shares, Mara. I still read the packets. My mother retired from Calder 6 years ago, but retained a narrow piece of the family company. Not enough to direct it, enough to receive binders full of tables designed to make ordinary expenses look sophisticated. Did the packet say they needed to erase worked hours? Don't be insulting. I'm not insulting you. You're using that calm little voice you use when you want me to feel ashamed before you've decided what I did. That stops me. She sighs. The labor target matters. What Celeste did is still wrong. And Grant? Grant is afraid. That's an explanation. Yes. Not a defense. I didn't say it was. My mother has always refused to make people simpler for my convenience. It is one of her best qualities when she does it to someone else. He approved my suspension, I say. The silence changes. From the floor? From Calder Systems, too. For declining the card? Pending review. Those words mean someone already chose the answer. I know. Come here. It's after 1. I have coffee. You made that coffee at 6 last night. It has matured. Despite myself, I laugh. Come here, she says again. I need a few hours. Mara. Hour mark flagged the edits. I'm their implementation contact. They may call early. Then bring your phone. I look at the brass counter by the sink. She gave it to me the day I became lead, pretending she only wanted space in her junk drawer. I'll come after I hear from them. She waits just long enough to tell me she disapproves. Do not let Grant make this a family favor. He already made it holiday goodwill. That phrase sounds like Celeste. It was. Well, at least Grant hasn't lost his own voice. He'd have to find it first. At 6:14, my phone rings from a Seattle number. Is this Mara Ellison? Yes. This is Dana Cho with Hour Mark. I'm sorry about the hour. I'm not. She pauses. I received an integrity escalation tied to your account. There were 9 administrator changes after source synchronization, followed by rejected employee certifications. Can you see the original punches? Yes. Can Calder change them? Not in the source ledger. I grip the edge of the kitchen counter. I need the original export. As the client implementation contact, you can request a comparative audit package. Normally, it goes through your account administrator. Celeste Klein is the administrator who made the edits. I saw that. There is no drama in Dana's voice. That steadies me more than sympathy would. I've been suspended from system access, I say. Do you have authority to convene a client review? No, Grant Calder does. Mr. Calder confirmed a review at 7:30. I straighten. He called you? Ms. Klein did. She requested that we document what she described as a device duplication issue before their refinancing meeting. Celeste is not trying to hide the hour mark alert. She is getting in front of it. If the clock configuration becomes the problem, the woman who configured it becomes the cause. Are you sending them the export? I'm bringing it. Bringing it where? To your site. I look through the kitchen window at the dark street. You're in Seattle. I'm in Milwaukee. My parents are in Madison. I was already awake and regretting several personal choices involving pie. A laugh slips out before I can stop it. Dana continues. Calder is one of my regional accounts. A batch integrity mismatch affecting payroll requires a review, and your contract specifies on-site access to the audit environment during a disputed sync. Celeste wrote that contract. Then she chose excellent language. Will I be allowed in? Mr. Calder included you on the meeting notice. My phone chimes while she is speaking. Grant, boardroom, 7:30. Bring no company records off-site. He doesn't ask whether I did. He wants the sentence documented. I'll be there, I tell Dana. Calder's parking lot is nearly empty when I return. A freezing mist has turned the painted lines silver. My access badge flashes red at the employee entrance. Grant opens the door from inside. He is wearing the same work shirt, wrinkled now, with a fresh coffee stain near the second button. You could have called me, I say. I'm calling this meeting. Before the hours were deleted. He looks past me toward the lot. Come inside. My badge? Celeste suspended it. You approve that too? His jaw moves. Don't do this in the doorway. Did you? Yes. The word is quiet enough to make me lean closer. Why? Because you challenged a payroll decision in front of another supervisor. She watched Celeste change her record. Priya is salaried. Luis isn't. Janice isn't. Anton isn't. We'll review all of it. You reviewed enough to approve it. Grant closes his eyes briefly. The bank can pull the equipment line today, and that frightens you enough to sign anything Celeste puts in front of you? His face changes. For 1 second, I see my cousin, not my manager, the man who carried folding chairs through my mother's house before every family holiday, who once drove 3 hours to find a replacement pump because I said the night crew couldn't make it to morning, who has spent the last year sleeping badly and calling it strategy. Then the plant manager returns. Leave your phone outside the boardroom, he says. No. Mara. I'm attending a meeting about altered records. My phone stays with me. Celeste is waiting upstairs beside the long glass table. She has changed into a charcoal suit and pulled her hair into a smooth knot. 3 printed packets sit at precise intervals. The wall monitor displays a slide titled Device Duplication Review. She looks at my phone. Recording is prohibited. It isn't recording. Put it on the table where I can see it. I set it beside my hand. Grant sits at the head. I take the chair opposite Celeste. At 7:36, heels sound on the metal stairs. A woman in a camel coat enters carrying a sealed black laptop case and a silver security key on a cord around her wrist. Dana Cho, she says, our Mark account director. She sets the case on the glass table but does not open it. Celeste slides one of the packets toward her. We believe Ms. Ellison's configuration generated duplicate hours after an unauthorized extended shift. Dana glances at the packet, then at me. Were you physically present for the recorded time? Yes. That isn't the issue, Celeste says. Presence and compensable work are different questions. Dana removes the security key from her wrist. The source ledger can't answer your policy question, she says. It can show us what happened to the data. She opens the laptop, connects the key, and turns the screen toward the glass wall. 9 rows appear. Every original punch is intact. Beside each one is Celeste's login, the time of deletion, the new code, and Grant's approval. Grant leans forward. Celeste doesn't move. Dana selects my row and opens the audit trail. The clock did not duplicate Ms. Ellison's time. At 11:39 p.m., 12 hours were manually removed after successful synchronization. Grant looks at Celeste. You told me these were unverified exceptions. They were. You said the system created them. I said the system allowed them. Celeste turns to Dana. Can your ledger establish what work Ms. Ellison performed during those hours? No. Celeste folds her hands. Then we're exactly where we began, she says, with an employee who was present, a supervisor who exceeded her staffing authority, and hours that have not been shown to be payable. I look at Grant. He is staring at his own approval in the original clock export as if someone else put his name there. Grant reaches for Celeste's packet, but she puts her hand on it first. You approved the correction, she tells him. I approved review of exceptions. You approved the labor reduction at 11:43. I thought you had verified it. I did verify it. Mara lacked authorization to hold that crew. I take out my phone. Celeste's eyes follow it. What are you doing? Finding authorization. Grant's message is still there. Stay until the hospital carts are clean, whatever it takes. I place the phone on the glass and slide it toward Dana. Celeste reads it without touching the phone. That directs completion of an assignment. It doesn't authorize unlimited overtime. 12 hours across the week is not unlimited. It is 12 hours above the scheduled labor plan. Because we lost steam pressure, which is a maintenance matter. It becomes an operations matter when maintenance goes home. Dana's attention moves between us. Do you have a written overtime policy? Celeste taps her packet. Page 14. I open my copy. The policy requires authorization from a department manager or designated supervisor. It doesn't say the authorization must contain the word overtime. It does say employees must record all time spent performing assigned work. I turn the packet around. This part, I say. Celeste doesn't look. Policies have to be read as a whole. That's convenient for the person who wrote the whole. Grant rubs both hands over his face. Can we stop doing this like a deposition? You asked our Mark to document a system failure, I say. The system didn't fail. I know that now. You approved the cut before you knew. He flinches and Celeste steps in before he can answer. The source ledger establishes the sequence of data events. It does not validate Mara's staffing decisions, her allocation of work, or the necessity of the claimed hours. Those are internal issues. Dana closes the audit window but leaves the 9 rows on the screen. They are internal issues. The data integrity issue is mine. Our Mark will preserve this audit package and note that the client-side payroll file differs from original device activity. What does note mean? Grant asks. It means the variance remains open until Calder tells us which data it is using and why. Celeste's voice cools. Our contract does not give our Mark authority over compensation decisions. No, Dana says. It requires us to preserve an accurate record of modifications. There is a knock on the boardroom door. Priya stands outside the glass with her coat still on and a Calder coffee mug in one hand. Grant stares at her. Who let you in? Luis. Luis isn't supposed to have building access today. He's delivering the signed mercy sheet. Grant looks at me. Did you call them? No. Priya opens the door. She didn't. I told Luis there was a payroll meeting. He said his pay was attending whether invited or not. Celeste rises. This is a confidential management review. Priya holds up her phone. Then you'll want the management document someone removed from the supervisor clipboard. The room goes still. What document? Grant asks. The staffing sheet you initialed. I didn't remove it, Celeste says. Priya's eyebrows lift. Interesting that you knew it was gone. I saw Mara handling it last night. I put it in the clear front pocket, I say. Grant pushes his chair back. Stay here. He leaves for the production floor. Celeste remains standing. She gathers the edges of her packet into alignment, though they are already aligned. Priya sits beside me and hands over her phone. The first photograph shows the staffing sheet beneath the clock. 9 names, assignments, start times, and my initials. At the bottom, under shift plan confirmed, are Grant's initials. The wall clock reads 9:04 p.m. In the reflection on the terminal, Celeste is visible at the upstairs railing. Your thumb isn't even in this one, I say. I'm growing. The next photograph is closer. Every name is legible. Grant returns carrying the empty clipboard. Who had access to this after shift? He asks. Any supervisor? Celeste says. There were no supervisors left. Mara and Priya were there. I watched Mara put it back, Priya says. Celeste turns on her. You are not neutral. Neither is your login. Grant drops the clipboard onto the table. The plastic clatter makes him wince. Dana asks Priya to send the photographs directly to our Mark's secure review address so their timestamps and metadata can be retained with the export. Celeste objects that the staffing sheet is proprietary. Grant surprises me by cutting her off. Send them. It is the first decision he has made all morning without looking at her. Priya sends the photographs. Celeste sits. Her face hasn't changed much, but I know what it costs her to lose control of a room by 1 inch. The sheet shows a plan, she says, not performance. The plant performed, I answer. Under whose hands? Mine, for part of it. Priya's, the crew's. Can you prove each period of activity? It is a clever question, not whether the work occurred, whether every minute can be divided into neat, defensible pieces after a night spent moving between machines. I think of the red grease pencil on the control board. The washer logs can. Celeste looks at Grant. Her system access is suspended. Machine logs aren't HR systems. They are company records. The clock export is a company record too, I say. That didn't improve with privacy. Grant stands. We're going downstairs. The production floor is cold without the ironers running. Our footsteps travel across the concrete. Priya leads us to the stainless control board beside the tunnel washer. It has been wiped clean. She stops. I wrote the pressure readings here. Celeste folds her arms. Sanitation cleans all production surfaces after shift. Sanitation wasn't scheduled last night, I say. Grant looks toward the dark chemical room. Who cleaned it? No one answers. Priya's mouth presses into a hard line. Then she points above the board. A quality camera faces the washer discharge. It records wrapped loads during active production, so rejected batches can be traced to wash formulas and operators. The board sits at the edge of its frame. 30-day retention, she says. Grant walks to the control terminal, then remembers my access has been disabled. Priya, pull the footage. Celeste steps between her and the screen. We need to preserve evidence properly. Agreed, Priya says. Move. Dana coughs into her fist, hiding something that might be a laugh. The footage shows me crossing the frame at 9:04 with the brass counter at my belt. Priya writes 91 psi on the board. At 9:12, I enter a formula change at washer 6. At 9:16, steam pressure begins climbing. The machine history identifies my operator code, the load numbers, the chemical cycle, and the time each load discharged. Grant watches 3 hospital carts roll through the recording. They left, he asks. Mercy signed for them, Priya says. Luis is waiting at the dock door with the route sheet. He hands it to Grant. The receiving signature is timed 1:08 a.m. You drove this after you punched out? Celeste asks. I never punched out, Luis says. You removed the time while I was still on Calder's route. You were instructed to leave at 10. By who? Celeste glances at me. Luis follows her eyes. Mara told me to deliver the route. Grant told her to finish the hospital carts. You want to show me which part became a hobby? Grant rubs the coffee stain on his shirt as if he has just noticed it. Celeste changes direction. Even then, I have to admire how quickly she does it. All this demonstrates, she says, is that Mara prioritized service delivery over explicit labor controls, altered production formulas, reassigned scheduled work, and extended routes without confirming budget authority. The company may elect to compensate disputed time while still disciplining the supervisor responsible for creating it. There it is. If she can't make the hours voluntary, she will make them misconduct. Grant turns to me. Did you have approval to change the wash formula? It was an unused rinse left over from the chemical conversion. Priya verified quality. That's not what I asked. No, I had operating authority. According to my job description. Celeste's reply is immediate. Your job description grants you responsibility, not unilateral spending authority. Luis mutters, that sentence ought to be mounted over the door. Grant hears him. Go home, Luis. With pay? Yes. Write it down. Grant pulls a pen from his pocket and writes on the route sheet. All Christmas Eve route time authorized for payroll review. He initials it. Luis studies the note. All 9? Yes. Say 9. Grant closes his eyes, then adds all 9 affected employees. Luis folds the sheet once and gives it to Priya, not Grant. Now I'll go home. Celeste watches him leave. You just compromised the review. No, Grant says. I confirmed they're getting paid. Then we need to discuss how that affects the financing presentation. Later. And Mara? He looks at me. The courage it took him to write the note is already draining away. Her suspension stands pending management review. My mother's house smells like coffee that has, in fact, matured. She listens while I tell her about the original export, the missing sheet, the quality footage, and Grant's note. She does not interrupt until I reach the suspension. He's trying to pay the crew and give Celeste your head, she says. I know. That lets him call himself fair. I know. She pours coffee into 2 mugs. You need to decide whether you want your job back. That isn't a decision. It is if they offer it on their terms. My phone rings before I can answer. Grant asks me to return to the boardroom at noon. This time my mother comes with me. Celeste has added 2 members of the Calder Ownership Committee by video. Grant sits at the head of the table, looking older than he did 4 hours earlier. He slides a 1-page proposal toward me. My 12 hours will be restored immediately. The superintendent position will become official on January 1st, with the raise I requested in October. The other 8 employees will be paid after individual review. I will accept a written warning for exceeding staffing authority and agree that payroll administration is confidential. My mother reads over my shoulder. A promotion, she says. How festive. Grant looks at me. This gets everyone through today. No, it gets me through today. The others will be reviewed. They already were. Your note says all 9. Celeste leans forward. This offer recognizes your contribution while preserving necessary management standards. What happens to the voluntary support code? It remains available for appropriate circumstances. What circumstances involve hourly employees performing assigned work? Her expression closes. I push the proposal back. All 9 corrected in the current payroll, I say. The source ledger feeds directly to payroll. Every edit gets a written reason visible to the employee. HR and plant management lose the ability to alter punches without a second documented approval. Grant stares at me. You're negotiating system controls now? I'm telling you what it takes for me to come back. Celeste's voice is almost gentle. Be careful, Mara. Refusing a good faith resolution can have consequences. So can accepting one. I turn to Grant. And you acknowledge in writing that you authorized the work and approved the deletion before checking the original record. His face empties. My mother sets down her coffee. Grant looks from me to the ownership committee on the screen, then to Celeste. If I sign that, he says, I may not keep this position. For the first time since the clock changed, he sounds completely honest. I know, I say. He folds the proposal in half. Then your suspension continues, he says, and the superintendent offer is withdrawn. Celeste reaches for the folded paper, but Grant keeps his hand on it. One of the owners on the screen clears his throat. We're commissioning an independent payroll review. No more timecard changes until it's finished. Celeste goes very still. Grant looks down at his hand. I unhook my mother's brass counter from my belt and set it on the glass between us, the number 219 facing him. That, I say, is how many clean carts left this plant because we stayed. Then I leave it there and walk out with my mother. The counter stays in the boardroom. I realize it halfway across the parking lot when my hand reaches automatically for the weight at my hip and finds nothing. My mother notices. Leave it, she says. It's yours. It was mine. Then it was yours. It's sitting in front of Grant. Good. Maybe he'll count something besides dollars. She gets into her car before I can argue. By the time payroll closes, all 9 time cards show their original hours again. Luis sends Priya a photograph of his corrected total with the message, "Tell the clock I forgive nothing." Priya forwards it to me, along with confirmation that Grant's handwritten authorization has been scanned into the root file. My own card remains uncertified. The hours are back, but the warning code is still attached to my name. Supervisory review pending. Celeste knows how to make an accusation survive its evidence. The reviewer sends me a secure link that afternoon. I spend Christmas at my mother's dining table uploading what I have. Grant's messages, Celeste's emails, Priya's photographs, Dana's integrity notice, and my copy of the wash formula change record. I write a timeline without adjectives. My mother watches from the kitchen, cutting slices from the ham each time she walks past it. You've eaten half that standing up, I tell her. I'm preserving the middle. For what? Better guests. I look at the empty chairs around the table. Grant was supposed to be one of those guests. My mother sets down the knife. Don't make that face. What face? The one where you take responsibility for everyone else's empty chair. He's your nephew, and you're my daughter. That doesn't make this easier. No, it makes it clear. The review lasts longer than Grant promised and less time than Celeste hoped. Without system access, my days lose their edges. I wake before the plant's first shift and reach for a radio that is no longer on my nightstand. At 2 in the afternoon, I find myself listening to the pipes in my house because a water hammer sounds enough like a steam problem to make my body stand up before my mind catches up. I'm still being paid for my scheduled hours while suspended, but the superintendent raise is gone. So is the certainty I had built my year around. The position was never only money. It was proof that fixing things counted for more than being agreeable while they broke. On the first Monday after Christmas, Luis and Priya arrive at my house carrying a Calder laundry bag. If that contains dirty sheets, I'm moving, I say. Priya sets the bag on my table. Inside are copies of route scans, washer histories, quality release reports, and seal records for every late cart. You can't give me company records, I say. We didn't, Priya says. The reviewer requested them. We asked that you be allowed to inspect the same evidence being used to evaluate your decisions. They approved access through the review portal. Luis puts a bakery box beside the laundry bag. Those are ours. What are they? Evidence pastries? They're donuts. Every jury likes an exhibit. There is no jury. Then more for us. The records fit together better than memory. Cart 219 discharged from washer 6 at 10:54. Priya released it at 11:09. I sealed it at 11:47. Luis's doc scan came 4 minutes later. Mercy received it at 1:08. Every action pays for the next. The reviewer asks why I didn't send part of the crew home at 10. I answer that I did. Then I provide the names, assignments, and punch times of the employees released before Celeste's email. I had cut the late crew from 23 people to 9. The reviewer asks whether I considered delaying the hospital routes. I upload Grant's thumbs up on the dispatch order and the account notes showing Mercy's route could not wait. The reviewer asks whether changing the wash formula risked quality. Priya provides test results from the first load and the signed quality releases for every load after it. Celeste submits a 42-page response. Most of it is good. That is what makes it dangerous. She identifies overtime, creep, inconsistent supervisor approvals, route inefficiencies, and 3 cases where employees failed to clock meals correctly. She includes charts showing that labor costs have grown faster than revenue. She explains that Calder's old habits will bury it. Then, on page 36, she describes the Christmas Eve edits as a necessary normalization of non-productive presence. Dana's audit package shows Celeste applied that description after the routes were complete, after the device punches synchronized, and after Grant's approval. The reviewer starts looking backward. Christmas Eve is not the first time the source ledger and payroll file disagree. It is simply the first time Hourmark's variance threshold caught enough edits at once to generate an integrity escalation. 6 weeks earlier, 2 route drivers lost 22 minutes each after waiting for a hospital dock to reopen. In November, a wash floor employee's callback time was converted to regular time because the supervisor used the wrong authorization form. 3 meal periods were inserted into shifts, where machine logs showed employees clearing jams or releasing loads. The amounts are small enough to hide inside ordinary paychecks and frequent enough to form a pattern. Some edits were legitimate corrections, some were not. Celeste had treated the absence of clean documentation as permission to choose the cheaper version. Grant approved 11 of them. He comes to my mother's house with the brass counter in his coat pocket. She lets him in but doesn't offer coffee. He puts the counter on the table between us. It still reads 219. I kept meaning to bring this back, he says. You kept meaning to do a lot of things. I deserved that. Don't do that. What? Agree with the insult so you don't have to answer it. He sits across from me. His Calder jacket is new, probably taken from inventory because he has never remembered to order his own uniform until the old one becomes embarrassing. The reviewer says I shouldn't have approved any change I couldn't independently verify. Do you disagree? No? Did you know Celeste was editing punches before Christmas? I knew she was correcting exceptions. That's the phrase again. I didn't look closely. You looked closely at the labor ratio. His eyes dropped to the counter. Every morning. And not at the people inside it. I thought if we lost the equipment line, none of the rest would matter. Did you really think that? Or did you think Celeste would save the refinancing and I would absorb whatever she did to get there? He looks up. That is the unanswered question I have carried since I saw his approval beneath my missing hours. Grant doesn't insult me by denying it. You always fix the floor, he says. You always cover the part someone else missed. I told myself you'd understand once the loan closed. You counted on me being loyal enough to cheat. I counted on you staying. The difference hurts more than I expect. My mother stands at the kitchen counter with her back to us. She is close enough to hear and far enough to make this ours. Grant slides a document across the table. It is a written acknowledgement that he authorized completion of the hospital routes, received my staffing plan, approved the time deletion without reviewing original device activity, and failed to disclose that lack of review to the affected employees. His signature is at the bottom. This goes to the committee in the morning, he says. You know what happens if you send it. Yes. What are you asking me for? Nothing. You came here. I wanted you to know I signed it before somebody tells you it was part of a settlement. I read the document again. This doesn't fix it. I know. It helps. He nods once. My mother turns around. There's coffee. Grant looks at her. Is it fresh? Don't push your luck. The ownership committee meets in the glass boardroom 2 days later. Dana joins by video, not to recommend discipline, but to explain the audit controls Calder already pays for and has never enabled. The reviewer's findings sit in front of every chair. Celeste does not apologize. She argues that her decisions protected the plant from managers who treated overtime like an emotional obligation. She is right about the weak approvals. She is right about the waste. She is wrong about what those failures entitled her to take. The committee removes payroll editing authority from HR and plant operations. All source punches will feed directly from our mark. Any correction requires a reason visible to the employee and a second approval from payroll. The disputed edits identified in the review will be paid through an off-cycle deposit. Celeste is offered a narrower compliance role focused on benefits, safety, and written policy, with no control over time records. She reads the proposal once. You are retaining the people whose failures created this exposure, she says. Grant looks at the table. The committee chair answers, We're changing those roles too. Celeste closes the folder. Then you don't need me to legitimize it. She leaves with the same straight posture she brought into every room. I watch her cross the sorting floor below us. People move out of her path without being asked. For 1 second, I almost wish she had chosen differently. Competence could have built the controls she tried to outrun. Grant is removed as plant manager and returned to route operations. He keeps his pay for 6 months while the refinancing committee decides whether Calder's revised controls are credible. The equipment line survives, but the tunnel washer is delayed until spring. Nothing breaks cleanly. The committee asks me to return under an interim, external plant director. The superintendent title is back on the table. I leave it there. My terms were not a title, I say. The committee chair looks at the controls listed in front of him. Those have been adopted. Adopting a control in a meeting is easy. I want the employee visible reasons active in our mark. I want payroll trained. I want supervisors trained. I want the original punches locked from client deletion. Dana confirms our mark can configure all 3, and the warning on my file is removed, I say. Not amended, removed. Grant is sitting 2 chairs away. Do it. The chair looks at him. This isn't your decision. I know. Do it anyway. I return as Operations Systems Superintendent after Dana verifies the configuration and payroll completes its first clean cycle. The external director handles staffing and budgets. I handle the machinery, records, and handoffs between them. Grant works the dispatch desk downstairs. We speak about routes, weather, and truck maintenance. For a while, that is all we can manage. The next holiday schedule goes up with overtime approvals attached to every assignment. On the late shift, Cart 219 is back in rotation. Its right wheel still squeaks, even after maintenance claims to have fixed it. Luis pushes it toward the dock. "Goodwill delivery," he says. "Billable goodwill," Priya corrects. I check the seal, compare it to the route sheet, and raise my mother's brass counter. One click marks the final cart. The wall clock records the minute. I wait through the synchronization, watching the numbers settle into place. Then I hook the counter onto my belt and send the cart out. This time, both numbers stay where I put them.